Hello. Welcome everybody. I'm sort of a bit rattled. I've never expected to be on a big stage like this, but this is called Caring for Our Ancient Heart of Country, Wurdi and Rebuilding a Bright Future for Its People, Plants and Animals. My real name is Trevor, but I'm known as Reg. I'm a Gurundjamara man. My family come from Gurundjamara, which is down Lake Condaway, where the oldest aquaculture farm is in the world. I have connections to Yorta, Bunurong and Tasmanian, all through my maternal mother's side. Who hits the next slide, you know? There you go. This is the map of Wurdi. You can see where Melbourne is and Geelong is at the moment. And if you want to click to the next one. This is our map of our property. This property is 369 hectares. It's part of the Victorian Volcanic Plains. The Victorian Volcanic Plains stems from Melbourne to the South Australian border. There's only 1% of that Victorian Volcanic Plains left intact. So all of the rocks have been cropped, or been gathered up and put in piles basically for future cropping. So I'll go to the next one. On our property, we have a Wurdi stone arrangement. It's an astronomical marker. Basically, if you want to go to the next slide. I think I've only got 5 minutes, so I've got to be really quick. There's one back before that, I think. No, that'll do. To the, what would they say? To the left side of this picture, to the right side of this picture, we have an alignment which goes to the winter solstice when the sun comes down. It is equal to Stonehenge in England. Stonehenge actually marks the winter solstice, the summer solstice and the equinox rising in the morning. Ours marks the sun going down. So I'm working with astronomers, astrologers, what do you call them, archaeologists. So from the right-hand side, it's actually winter. You come to the centre, it's spring, summer, autumn, spring. It actually takes 91 days from one section to the centre of the three large rocks at the top. 91 days, 91 days, 91 days. So it's actually a calendar which has been built out there. And there's probably estimated to be about another 7 stone arrangements in Victoria alone. Probably 2 of them stone arrangements has been destroyed due to new farmers taking over land and de-rocking probably. And the fact is that an Aboriginal site does not go onto your title of your property when you buy one. So I can go to the next slide. We're working on country out there at the moment. We got funded by the Biodiversity Fund, round one, $1 million. We aim to put back 20 hectares of native Thermida triandra, kangaroo grass. We've got another year and a half to go, but we've successfully got about 7 hectares up. And last year, because of the weather, we weren't able to collect seed. So we sort of changed our points of interest to grow other Indigenous native grasses out there. And meanwhile, back with that map, we've got 60 hectares fenced off. We've got 40 hectares of Victorian volcanic plains with a native seed bank, which if you want to move the next slide. This is our seed orchard. Our seeds are actually grown into the ground. They're not grown into a nursery so that they adapt to the actual environment. We have some things are self-seeding out into the Victorian volcanic plains. The bottom picture here I think might be, what are they? Lemon beauty heads, possible. Go to the next slide. We're doing a lot of weeding at the moment, artichoke thistles. Our property is smothered with Chilean needlegrass. We have Chilean needlegrass, and one of the main threats is, I'm trying to think, that awful weed. I've seen it out there. It gets 180,000 seeds on it anyway, serrated tussock. We've also been doing fire management. We've had down an Uncle Rod from New South Wales. We've been learning how to do burns on our own property within the grasslands. I suppose everyone can plant a tree, but the native grasslands are very special, I suppose. Our seed orchard actually looks terrible sometimes. I go out there and just want to start kicking things. But it actually, about this time of the year, all these native plants come up. Some of them might only last 1 week. Some of them might last a month. It all depends on the season, on how much rain we've had and so forth. So it's a disappearing grasslands. So the next slide, please. We have threatened flora and fauna. Here we have yam daisies. We have a picture of some stone artefacts which are found on the property, and they are totally everywhere along the riverbanks out there. Within that we have I think a bilby skull found on the property. We have the spiny rice flower, which is also critically endangered. Across the road we have Mount Rothwell Conservation Centre. We hope to partner with them very shortly, which have tiger claw. Also on the property we've found legless lizards. So we can go to the next slide. Can you go to the next one, love, and I'll go back. The threat that we have at the moment is the compulsory acquisition overlay. There's 15,000 hectares grassland, which takes up for the ongoing development of Melbourne, which is growing to the west. So they're actually destroying kangaroo grass and all this kind of stuff, and they're going to protect it over here. Our aim, we're in that little square box. Our aim is we're actually relearning basically how to do broad acre scale native vegetation. So we're planting back native stifer on areas around the stone arrangement to afford it more protection. We're doing the reseeding, which does not allow for any excavation or taking 100 mil off, which some people do. We want the land to stay intact. So we're basically, we have about probably 300 hectares left, which goes to the farmer to crop. We're taking areas back every year and reseeding them back with native vegetation. And therefore we are trying to create a seed bank for the Western Grassland Plains with Aboriginal employment. We've probably trained people up in rural fencing, repair, maintain and install. We've done chainsaw certificates. We've got a broad range of activities, which we offer also to the local justice system, where people are doing their cutting out fines. We actually get a couple of guys out there and we give them training, and we actually give them a certificate, so sort of help them move forward with their, basically hopefully they can get a career and go out and do some work. So with this we're talking to the government now about the land being under compulsory acquisition. What this does, it allows us not to be eligible to use the habitat hectares, which is some big values which would help us for the next 10 years to do ongoing management and training activities and be self-sufficient with the Aboriginal community. So we're talking to the Secretary later on next month about hopefully getting this overlay off. So the last one, please. Partnerships and support. Could I please go back to that second last one? And bang, the next one. We're doing business planning at the moment. We've got money through the Helen McPherson Smith Trust, along with the Crangamite Catchment Management Authority. You can see the stone hut down the bottom there. We recreated that with about 56 community people within a couple of days, and it's been like a bit of a landmark out there, and a lot of Indigenous people across Victoria are also going back to their own countries and doing these things, and it's great for their kids to be able to actually see something, rather than, because these things used to be everywhere, and now they can see it and they're starting to regain connection to the land and to their culture. With this we have, I've got permits to go and collect off the Victorian Volcanic Plain roadsides. We're collecting kangaroo grass, native stifer, and taking it back to the property. In some of the developments within the Western Grassland Reserve, where Melbourne's getting bigger, we're actually digging out the kangaroo by the trailer loads and kangaroo grass and taking it back and planting it on our property. So we're trans-relocating. And you'll see here Wawalia flower. We've also had some grasses tested for their nutritional values. These grasses are now probably, I think kangaroo grass. Bruce Pascoe's a big fan of the kangaroo grass. He says that Aboriginal people ate that for the last 40,000 years. We believe that there were some other grasses which were out there also, which we've had tested for their nutritional value. A lot of their nutritional value comes back over a lot more percentage rather than oats, barley and wheat, and also is drought tolerant. It could be a species that feeds the world in the future. With the area of the stone arrangement, the property we have, we are starting to recognise that we have terraces, which are gilguys, which the first, I suppose, Europeans, when they mapped Victoria, they seen fields of yam and daisies. So we're actually going to get archaeological tests on them areas. And then we'll probably, that'll probably lead to lots of other terraces and gilguys being found throughout Victorian volcanic plains. So there's a lot of science, archaeology, astronomy, and a lot of science going on with everything we're doing. And I suppose with that note, if we go to the last slide again, hopefully down the bottom here in the bottom corner, we have Nigel Sharp from Mount Rothwell Conservation Centre. We're hoping to go into a partnership with Mount Rothwell Conservation Centre. We'd like to see our property fenced off from feral animals such as foxes and rabbits and cats. Continue to recreate the grasslands there, and probably in the future, another 30 years, have a living museum out there and protected for our future and everybody's future and for their kids. So with that, I'd like to say thank you, and that's me, I think.
Fantastic.
I didn't read it on the paper.
That was brilliant. What an exciting world of Indigenous land management and return to country that Reg has just shared with us. That's a big open book that I'm sure each and every one of your groups will be able to dip into and learn and share and draw on Reg's experiences and work into the future. So Reg, thank you for a really exciting talk. Yes, please. Our final little session is a round table, and I'd like to introduce Bambi Lees, Robin Mackay, Shani Hamilton, and Auntie Esther Kirby. Come and take a seat, and Reg is going to join in as well.
We've just been asked to talk about partnerships in land care with Aboriginal groups. So if we'll just each introduce ourselves and then open up to you all for some questions.
I'm Esther Kirby. I'm from up on the Murray River. We're looking after country up there. It's a beautiful part of the world. If you ever want a holiday, come up there. Good fishing, beautiful forest, a lot of bush foods there. So come up to Kundruk and Barham and Gumbow Forest. I'll pass you on to Bambi.
Good afternoon. I'd just like to acknowledge that we're on Wurundjeri country today, and I want to give my respects to the elders past and present and to all Aboriginal people and Indigenous people that are here today. My name's Bambi. I'm the Indigenous Facilitator for the North Central Catchment Management Authority. We're based up in Huntly near Bendigo, and my role is to facilitate partnerships with traditional owners, Indigenous organisations. I spend most of my time working with non-Indigenous people because it seems that most of the effort pays off in working with non-Indigenous people. Aboriginal people are already there. So it's about actually bringing non-Indigenous people into that space. We'll keep talking. Reg.
I'm going.
So my name's Robin. I work on the Barappa Water for Country project for North Central CMA with Auntie Esther and with Barappa people. I've come from a really white background. I guess you could say I grew up in a monoculture, not a multicultural kind of small town. So coming into the CMA and working on an Aboriginal project's been a really steep learning curve for me. I have a background as a land carer, and I'm sure for most of you would really love to do some more Aboriginal engagement and work with the First Nations people in your area, but probably the first question in your mind is, how do we do that? How do I get in touch with people? So I'd just like to acknowledge Bambi and Auntie Esther. They've really mentored me in that space. So if you can find someone that can mentor you, that's probably your first step towards building a partnership with the groups that you'd like to work with.
So we thought we'd throw it open to the floor. If you have any questions on ways that you can incorporate a strong Indigenous partnership into your land care groups. Does anyone have a question off the cuff? I've got a few here from different groups, but we've got some already, so let's just go with yours. We've got microphones running around, so just hold your hand up and someone will... We've got one down here with Don, and we'll go with the lady up there and then we'll come to Don.
My name's Lee, and I am involved in a Coast Care group in Coolum, and we actually do work with our traditional owners and would really like to see an Indigenous Ranger program on the Sunshine Coast. And we've actually been lobbying the government on all levels, and I'm just wondering if you've got any hints on how we can actually solidify, I guess, tenure for our local Indigenous guys. And they're trying to map cultural heritage sites. They're working really hard, but it's such a tenuous existence for them financially because it's all piecemeal stuff. So is there any solution to get them some sort of security in protecting what's their country?
At the moment, I think in 2018, all the Indigenous protected areas may be closed down, and there's going to be thousands and thousands of Aboriginal rangers which are employed throughout Australia without jobs. The things with these Indigenous protected areas and sea rangers and sea country rangers, a lot of the kids grow up, they see their mums and dads and their uncles and that all working, and they want to be like them. And it gets them out of, I don't know, suppose going down the wrong side, because they're looking up for leaders. And this is how we see Landcare sort of helping Indigenous people with health benefits also, with housing and all of these future economy things which invest in our community. And this is where we sort of need to aim for, because it's once that's all taken away, they're all got nothing to go for, I suppose. And I suppose we've got no land and sea, we've got no sea ranges down in Victoria. I suppose within Australia, a lot of the Indigenous ranges are all based up the northern coast in Western Australia, where everything is still intact. Down in Victoria here, a lot of our vegetation, everything has all been basically damaged, and a lot of our sites have been damaged through that process also. So I don't know whether that gives you much of an answer, but it sort of does.
Thanks very much for that question. Something that we're doing at the North Central CMA, and I know many people have done it before, and I think it's probably worth mentioning, and that is developing these reconciliation action plans. I've come around 360 on this. So 15, 20 years ago, I thought they were just another piece of fluffy, shiny piece of material that really didn't say a lot, and they were a nice thing to do. It made non-Indigenous people feel better. I've done the reading, we've talked to a lot of people, and this is all about Gen Y. I don't even know who those people are, right? Because I'm really struggling to connect with them as on a daily basis now. But apparently, Gen Y is our future, and they think reconciliation action plans are wonderful. So it is about this wave and this feeling and this commitment, right? And it's about feeling like you want to reconcile. So there is a movement now, a very strong one, particularly, I think, in the southern states, particularly for Victoria. Reconciliation action plans are a way of healing. People make them their own, and it's a tool to go and then engage with community. You can make them as glossy as you like, right? And you engage people along the way. You engage your traditional owners and your Indigenous communities along the way. But that's the thing that you can go to your investors with and say, hey, look at this, this looks great. Wouldn't you love your picture in this? You know, let's be partners. So the marketing side of stuff and the way we put ourselves out there, it's not just about being good corporate citizens, right? You've got to have the hooks and the baits. And I sound like I'm trying to merchandise, or what's the word, commercialise community partnerships. If it works, go for it. Right? We talk about putting cash on culture. Yeah, cash for culture. You be very careful with that. But it is of value and it's priceless. So why not put a dollar value on certainly on your knowledge, yeah, but also on the partnership. So it's not about just being good social citizens, corporate citizens. It's about what is being felt here. And I really think that it's the relationships. You find the right people and develop those relationships, and they will be intergenerational relationships, and it becomes cultural within your own organisations. So I don't know if anybody else has had any experiences with reconciliation action plans, but I'm feeling that they talk to a certain group of people and they're the ones that you want.
I was born on the river up there, and always loved the river, always loved them trees there, and got that. It's not about money to me, it's about how your heart feels, how we as elders, not just Aboriginal people but non-Aboriginal people, any culture, it's about us having the heart to take care of those things that we have that can't be replaced if we keep cutting the blessed trees down and putting pollutants into the water. We have to pull that up. And it's not just Indigenous groups. We've got a beautiful land care group over at Barham, and they're non-Aboriginal people, and they invited me over there. They showed me this bit of land, like it was flat and it was dusty and it didn't look too good. I was thinking, oh, what are you going to grow on there? But you go there and have a look at those trees and how beautiful it is. It's like it was there all the time, you know, and it's just a beautiful spot. So it's people just loving the country that they're in and taking care of it and giving space for everybody, us and our future generations, to come in there and appreciate and be able to eat bush foods. You know, it costs you nothing. It's very high in all the vitamins, keep you away from the doctors and things like that. And we've got medicines and stuff along that river there that we still use. And you know, we make it up and we give it to people, and we don't sell it, we just give it to people who use it. So we're still connected to country, we still love country, we're very passionate. And up along the river between the Murray and the Gumbow, you come up there into that forest at Kundruk and Barham and Kiuna, and you know, you want to go through this, tell them to look for me. If you can't find my name anywhere, go and ask the police, I work with them. So just say, where's Esther? And they say, they're there. And I'll show you that bush out there and show you the little things that's on the ground and in the tree. And not just myself, there's Neville and Charney and Robin and Bambi here and the other elders. All that stuff that's there that's so valuable and precious. Come and have a look at the bush as we're trying to protect it. And we're trying to protect it against the loggers and everybody else too. And sometimes you win and sometimes you lose, but you still keep going, because if you lay down, they're going to win. So we just get up and we just keep going. And we go out there, even if we get paid or not, we just go out there and check all them big old trees, make sure they're okay. And make sure, and after this big flood there now, that's coming along now, all those plants are going to flourish out there, and it's just going to be a beautiful sight. And I hope these fellas take a lot of good photos, because it's pretty country. It's not like coastal country or anything, it's just lovely, it's just peaceful, and you can feel the spirit in those trees of the old people that are gone, and it's just a peaceful spirit. And you try to get in there camping. People get in there camping, you can't even get a caravan in there or even a little bike sometimes, because they all get in there first and they all set up their camps. So, yeah, just if you want to have a break, come up there on the river and just see what we've been doing, like the old people been doing, and we're still doing their style of looking after things along with mainstream, and we're teaching these fellas. They teaching us, because there's a lot of stuff in them books that those words of them plants, we can't even say them. So we know what they are, we know what they think, and then you got all that other, what they call it? Greek stuff. They got all that stuff on it, and you can't even say them words. They're about this long, like they're longer than Aboriginal words. And all those plants are there, and we know where they are. We know where they are up that end, or where they're going to grow. So we can go in there, we can get that any time. And it's just like teaching people that knowledge of country. And, and just love that bush. Yeah.
Before if we can bring a microphone down to the front. Oh, you still got it on.
Still got it on. Auntie Esther, I love you. I respect what you're about. She says she's not marrying me. I respect what you're about. I love your heart. I hate the division between Indigenous Australians and non-Indigenous.
It doesn't have to be a division.
That's what I've come up.
It doesn't have to be.
That's what I've come up. I went to New Zealand a couple of years ago, and the Indigenous, I'm right, I've got this one, it's on my face. Yeah. And the Indigenous people there said, we like your respect for the Aboriginal people in Australia, and we want you to be a member of our tribe. And I went through the ceremony, I became a member of the tribe, and I said, is that just some cheap trick? They said, no. I said, what rights have I got? They said, well, if you want to choose to come and live with us, you can, as long as you observe our laws. Could I join your mob?
You're welcome up there.
Can we have a system in Australia where those millions of decent non-Indigenous Australians can become tribal members of their local tribe or a tribe as an act of support, whereby you get over a lot of those problems that you're talking about, of love and joining together, a proper joining up?
Yeah, well, we've been trying to get little badges and things made up for people who love country. No matter which part of Australia you are, you become custodians of the land. And being a custodian of the land doesn't mean that you have to be Aboriginal. You just got to love country and want to look after those plants and look after them little animals that are there. And we got these little animals, like little miniature kangaroos up there. And the Blandowskis, they recorded them way back when they first came here for the museum. Yep. And we still got them up there. We still got the wallabies, and they're starting to flourish again.
But could you kick it around with your mob? I'm not trying to put you on the spot, but could you kick it around amongst your mob? Why couldn't the Indigenous peoples of Australia work out a system where non-Indigenous people can join tribes as a matter of support? When I said to those Maoris, I'm technically a Maori, I would love to push that out all over Australia for non-Indigenous people to mesh in membership. Think about it. I'm not going to put you on the spot, but I just...
There's no big drama about it. Just coming up being a mate and just getting going. I think that's about all I got to say too. But if you fellas come up there, Kundruk Caravan Park, the bloke there is one of the best blokes ever. Best caravan park, right on the river, good fishing, everything. And you want someone to take you out bush, we got people to take you out bush. We got Neville, Sean, myself, and a few others. So come up and have a look at the country sometime. And we've got about 15 lakes out there. You wouldn't believe it. It's just the bird life and everything else that's there. And we can tell you what most of them birds mean to us. And they should mean the same thing to you fellas too, because they're important. Once they're gone, you know, you can't get them back again. So we need to look after what we got already. And it shouldn't be just up to the Aboriginal people to be taking care of country. It's up to everybody to do that. So I just wanted to put that out there.
Got a hand up over there. Actually, speaking of reconciliation action plans, the Sydney Opera House recently launched theirs. And, you know, what a beautiful opportunity to have an acronym. There's RAPS. and there's also SAP's, Sustainability Action Plans. But the Reconciliation Action Plan of the Sydney Opera House is, as you said, a wonderful opportunity. They're having mentorships for Indigenous youth, they're having apprenticeships, they're employing the students after they've finished their courses, and most of all, every employee of the Opera House has to be a part of an Indigenous induction process, whether they work for 1 hour or 1 week or 1 year. And that's a real-time translation onto the ground. And I think, as you said, those things do make a difference. They get things out there, and it isn't just a glossy plaque on the door.
This one's for Reg. I'm quite surprised and alarmed at your comment about the winding back of the Rangers program and the protected lands issue. Can you just elaborate on that, please? And why aren't we going the other direction and actually fostering more Indigenous rangers on country?
Yeah, I think it's just through the federal government funding, mate. 2018, it could be all over, Red Rover. But so it's up to the government, and I don't know whether there's any support out there at all. So I don't really know much on that, because I know that my funding runs out in 2018 for our Indigenous protected area, because we're under a consultation period, and also our biodiversity funds run out. And this is why we're trying to get a habitat hectare score for dollars. But as for the, I think the Rangers programs in Indigenous protected areas have been going for about 20 years, and I just don't know what's going to happen with the next, within the government, I suppose. So I suppose people need to find out more on the web or something.
Oh, we'll go down here. So we'll take 2 more questions, and then it's 5 o'clock. We'll have to get organised to be back here for the dinner.
Yeah, thank you. John Ryan from Dubbo. I'm a local land care coordinator, and part of that is about bringing as many groups, organised groups and other people under the land care banner. I've often thought that, when you get the farmers and the environmentalists together on CSG and things like that, you've got a very powerful force that politicians find much harder to ignore. I think that if we get everyone who works in the environment, in land care, all the Aboriginal groups, people who fish, people who use country, then if there's a threat to the Indigenous Ranger program, if we speak with one voice, an organised voice, that is going to be far more powerful than a few rangers saying, where they can say, oh, you're just worried about your jobs, you're not worried about the budget. If people can see that it's a far broader concern, I think there should be something really formalised there, and land care and all land councils and Indigenous communities around Australia, formalising something to work towards that.
I think at the moment, mate, there's only 9 Indigenous working on country ranges within Victoria. All the rest are all over Australia. With the biodiversity funds, I actually sacked my contractors, and we started using that money to employ Aboriginal people rather than to just give it to contractors. And that's how I sort of got my ranges up and running. So it wasn't through the federal government at all that I got it, but I made it happen, I suppose, which was pretty good.
There's no doubt about it. We've got to move from being reliant on government funding, and that's just across the board in NRM, in natural resource management. So, we do have to get smarter about this. I think when we're working with Aboriginal people and Aboriginal communities, that we need to look at strengthening communities as well. So instead of looking and working within that NRM, looking through an NRM lens, we should be looking also through that community development lens as well. And we don't, historically, we haven't had those type of social skills within the NRM business. We've had to bring them in. So I think we've got to get smarter. We've got to become more sort of socio-economically orientated in order to make a space for Aboriginal people as well. And the other thing I'll just say, and there is another question just up the back there, and this is not to offend anybody, but there's still a lot of business and a lot of business that needs to be taken care of within Aboriginal communities and traditional owner groups. And until Aboriginal people are ready to move into that space, it's still going to be a little bit of that divide. But there is certainly, I feel, a willingness for people to be moving into that one space. Yeah.
Just with that as well, I'd like to see more fires happening around our towns and cities, maybe using, Indigenous youth, unemployed youth in programs, because the burning of that land helps the land heal as well and brings back the native vegetation. And we do need to get back to doing basic fire practices before it turns into a big fireball and then causes all disruption to everybody. And so we really need that to sort of happen for our brighter future, for the biodiversity and to sustain our lives.
Okay, last one. Okay, thanks.
In 1995, the Australian government approached Aboriginal communities in a meeting in Alice Springs, and we were part of that meeting. There was a whole heap of people from Aboriginal people from Canberra, Dennis Rose and Anchor under the Australian Nature Conservation Agencies in those days. The Australian government approached Aboriginal people to set up national reserve systems, or to add to the national reserve systems. And there was a number of pilot projects that were run. Nepabunna community was the first Indigenous protected areas in Australia, not only in South Australia, in Australia, and international. The thing is that the national reserve systems on those was added to. A lot of these communities weren't getting funding out of the system, so they used the Indigenous protected areas as a mechanism to look after country, to care for country. Now, 20 years on, those Indigenous protected areas have continued, and they are going to be, particularly Nepabunna community, is going to be 20 years old this year. When we first started that, the community had low self-esteem, low motivation. Why? Because they didn't have the funding to get out to country. Now you look at those, the history, you look at those fellas, the parents of the young fellas then, to now those young fellas taking over the country and continue to do the work. The degraded land is now at a stage where economic development can happen, and they're looking at tourism now. But the thing that I've got to say is they made that investment first off. The National Reserve System has been added to, and it needs to continue, particularly the ranger programs and the Indigenous protected areas. So if you want to cut something out, then you can bet your bottom dollar that land will go back to Gunna. You know what Gunna is? Yeah, I won't say it, but it'll go back there because, and then the cycle, we always seem to be going through this cycle. It starts again. People talk about, we're talking, I'm hearing here that we seem to be talking the same language every cycle. Let's get something going that's been going for 20 years, continue to go, because you're still adding to the National Reserve System. You're looking after country, you're caring for country. That is a huge investment. These fellas are going to lose something, but, the federal government, or the Australian government's going to lose, and everybody in this room here will lose when they go past and see boxhorns and donkeys and camels and all that other stuff that's happening on our lands. So that's all I've got to say. That's an excellent program, it's a model, and it should continue. That's all I've got to say.
Thank you.
If I could just share one little story on the way down, one of the fellas working on the Barappa Water for Country project, Uncle Neville, I gave him a 30 years of land care badge, and he looked at it and he said, 30 years of land care? Where's me 50,000 years of land care badge?
What? Yeah, exactly. Thank you everyone for opening up this discussion. I'm sure we could stay here for a couple of hours because there's many questions that we didn't get to, and thank you for your patience there. But if you could please put your hands together for our wonderful panel, Robin, Bambi, Shani, Reg, and all our speakers this afternoon, including Don. Put your hands together for them, and thank you for a wonderful afternoon to all our speakers, to all the delegates. Thanks for your questions in all the sessions. They've been wonderful. I hope you've enjoyed today, and I'd like to once again thank our sponsors, Landcare Australia, the Australian Government, National Landcare Program, and the Victoria State Government. For those of you attending the dinner this evening, who's coming to the dinner? Okay, it's time to frock up and be back here. Pre-dinner drinks start in about an hour or so downstairs, and then the dinner itself starts at 7 o'clock. For those of you that aren't coming along, we'll see you here tomorrow, bright-eyed and ready to go at 9 a.m. So thank you once again to our wonderful panel. If you can put your hands together, please.